Welcome. Sit back and I want you to relax while I tell you the story of Phillip Chism, the 14-year-old who raped and murdered his teacher at school. Phillip Chism was reported missing by his mother when he failed to return home by 6:30 in the evening. He attended Danvers High School. The date was October the 22nd, 2013. He was a 14-year-old freshman. Later that night, Chism was found walking along the highway by police patrol. He was obviously stopped, but he made no eye contact, and he just stared straight ahead, even while the patrolman was talking to him. When he was asked where he was going, he just said, "Nowhere." He had on him a bag. It was a rucksack. When asked what he had in the rucksack, he told the patrolman it was his survival kit. Now inside the rucksack, the patrolman found a set of keys, a pair of sheer blue underwear, a diving leg sheath knife, a women's white zip purse, some credit cards in the name of Colleen Ritzer, a box cutter knife which had an inscription on it. On one side it said, "Don't cut your arm off." He also had on him a bottle of water. He was subsequently taken into custody. Simultaneously, Colleen Ritzer, 24 years old, was also reported missing. Colleen Ritzer was an American high school teacher at Danvers High School who taught math class. She was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts on May the 13th, 1989. Colleen taught math to Chism, and she had asked him to stay behind as he was not concentrating in class. When news circulated about missing Colleen, her parents arrived at the school and searching the school grounds. They found her purse under some leaves, and they turned this over to police at the scene. They also found some gloves and some bloody paper towels. The police then cornered off the area of the woods, declared it as crime scene, and sniffer dogs were deployed. There was, and there is, CCTV available online, and it is a very interesting watch, and I urge you to watch that if you want to find more about this case. Investigators started to try to obtain the school CCTV. Danvers School had just been remodeled, and a new camera system had been installed. Unfortunately, this wasn't working properly when police tried to view it, but eventually they got it up and running. The CCTV showed Chism running up and down between the two flights of stairs that separated the maths class and the bathroom several times. He was seen on CCTV changing clothes several times. At one point, he was also seen wearing a ski mask. A student saw him running up and down the hall and asked him what he was doing. Chism told him, "Nothing, go to practice." A friend who Chism attended church with spoke to him in the midst of this murder and asked him if he was going to go to youth group with him that week. Chism said yes, he will go with him that week. Also, on CCTV, Chism was seen going into the bathroom and then coming out, pulling a large recycle bin. The 16-year-old student and former teammate of Chism's described seeing him also seen on the video walking past someone walking their dog, dragging the bin, and blood was seen on his left hand, and also later on his subsequent arrest. Now witnesses, a witness saw Chism acting suspicious in the bushes. He was changing his clothes when this witness got home. Her daughter showed her the tweet of missing Phillip Chism, and she had realised that was who she had seen. She had a discussion with her husband, and they later called the police and notified them of what she had seen. After watching the CCTV, police focused their attention on the second floor bathroom. All they found at that time was a bloody handprint on the door frame. The bathroom appeared recently cleaned and smelt strongly of bleach and other cleaning products. Meanwhile, investigators searching the woods surrounding the school had found two blood-stained grey sneakers, found separate from one another. One more blood-stained than the other. There was no blood on the surrounding ground, the mud or the leaves around the sneakers, suggesting they were stained with blood at a different location. There were two big boulders, and situated just beyond them was a grassy verge, or some people may call it a ditch. It was here police found, with the help of the dog, a pair of ladies' flat black shoes under a pile of leaves. They then saw the recycle bin. The inside of the barrel or the bin had blood in it. There was also some textbooks covered in blood at the bottom of the bin. There were some items of clothing with blood on them also found in the ditch. There was a pair of blood-soaked jeans that belonged to Chism, a sock, and a pair of women's black pants which belonged to Coleen. It was then, sadly, Now, here's what I've learned about Chism's early life. He has one sibling, a sister, younger by 1 year. His father was in the US military, and the family would often move around, which meant Philip moved schools quite frequently. He played soccer, and his father would attend, sometimes in full military uniform. His parents separated, with his mother citing domestic abuse, alcohol and infidelity on the father's part, and she was awarded custody. Chism's father was ordered to pay child support and had been given supervised visits. However, I'm unsure whether he did actually do any visits, and neither am I sure whether Chism had a relationship with his father after the divorce. Now, there is no documented history of physical, sexual abuse or neglect, and although Chism has not confirmed this, he hasn't denied it either. Chism had a best friend which he had known since the age of 3 years old. He used to spend a lot of his time at his house, sleeping over quite regularly. His best friend's mother testified that although Philip was very respectful to her, he was very disrespectful to his mother. He appeared to have quite a volatile relationship with her. Now, when the case went to trial, Cleaner testified he had attended work the morning after the murder, and that he saw lots of blood on the second floor bathroom and in 2 of its cubicles. He also saw blood splatter up the walls and footsteps in blood. He went to report it to the school deputy, but he was just told to clean it up, only leaving a smudged handprint on the doorframe for police to later find. After the murder of Colleen, Chism, who had stolen her credit card, went to watch a movie at the theatre. He watched the movie Gravity. He was then seen on CCTV going into a wholesale store and stealing a diving sheath, which was later found on him when he was walking aimlessly along the highway after the murder. Now, at post-mortem, it showed that Coleen had been brutally raped, sodomized, and stopped making any eye contact. Classmates described him as being normally an outgoing and friendly person. A week prior to the murder, he started to wear earbuds and not engage with the classes he was in. Now, at the trial, Chism went down the insanity route. The trial was occasionally delayed by Chism, who was once observed beating his head on the floor and at another point refused to return to the courtroom, telling his lawyer he was about to explode. Now, witnesses told the court that Chism's grandmother and aunt did suffer with mental illness. Chism, on day 3, asked not to be present for the remainder of the trial. The judge questioned Chism to ensure this was what he wanted to do. He stared blankly ahead of the judge with no deviation in his facial expressions. When asked, he did say he had taken prescription drugs. What these drugs were not discussed. He was told by the judge that court proceedings would be available for him to watch after the trial. However, when the judge also advised him he would not be able to discuss or dispute with his lawyer anything he disagreed with during the trial, he changed his mind. Court-appointed psychiatrist testified that Chism was not showing any signs of psychosis or any other mental illness, and he did not prescribe him any medication. Now, with all the evidence shown, Chism appears to be quite calculated and calm. While Chism was being held at the DYS facility in Dorchester, awaiting trial for Colleen's murder, prosecutors alleged he laid in wait for a female staff member, then beat and choked her and tried to stab her with a pencil. This was a year after Colleen's murder. He was then sent to a mental health unit for 2 weeks. It was only